My parents cut me off from our family trip just to please my jealous sister. Now they begged for help, but I revealed a secret that shattered them. My sister said, "You don't belong in our family." Her arms crossed and her face twisted into a smug grin that I'd come to know far too well. She delivered the line with such fake sweetness that, for a second, I almost thought she was trying to help me. But then my mother, sitting at the kitchen table sipping her tea, said, "She's right." My father didn't even bother to look up from his phone as he muttered, "Yeah, maybe it's better this way." For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the three of them, trying to figure out if they had planned this together. I could practically hear the rehearsals in my sister's room, her talking them into it, the way she always did, convincing, charming, scheming. All my life, I'd been the one person who didn't buy her act, and maybe that's why she hated me so much. I left, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. "Well," I said, grabbing my jacket off the back of the chair, "guess I'll save you the trouble." I walked out. No one stopped me. My sister grinned, pleased with herself, and my mom looked back down at her tea like she didn't care. My father didn't even look up. I shut the door behind me and took a deep breath. The thing is, it didn't hurt like they probably wanted it to. I wasn't like my sister, who lived for their approval, always basking in their praise and playing the golden child. I had learned long ago that I wasn't their favorite. They tolerated me, sure, but love, support, that had always been reserved for her. And honestly, I didn't mind. I had my own friends, my own life, and my own sense of who I was. Still, it stung a little. Not the fact that they let me go, but how easily they made it seem. No hesitation, no second thoughts, no wait. Let's talk about this. Just silence. I stayed with my best friend that night. When I told her what had happened, we laughed about it over a bottle of cheap wine, joking about how my sister probably saw herself as the queen of the family now. "Honestly, it sounds like you're better off," my friend said, and she was right. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something about this whole thing wasn't just about me. My sister had been building up to this for months, making little comments to our parents about how I didn't fit in, or how I wasn't like them. It wasn't enough for her to be the favorite, she wanted me out. 2 days later, they were packing their bags for a family vacation. I hadn't even realized they were planning it until I saw the suitcases by the front door. My sister, of course, made a big show of it, laughing loudly as she gave directions and supervised my parents. As I watched from the stairs, she kept looking at me, waiting for a reaction. When I didn't say anything, she finally turned to me and said, "So, are you just going to sit here all alone? What are you going to do without us?" I smiled, calm and unconcerned, the way I knew would annoy her the most. "I hope they take you to a hospital for the mentally ill on this trip. Maybe they'll have room for Mom and Dad." Her face instantly turned red, and the next thing I knew, she was screaming, tears streaming down her face, the whole act. My parents rushed to comfort her, looking at me as if I had just committed a crime. "You're so cruel," my mother said, shaking her head. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" I shrugged, because I'd rather be sane. When they left, I felt nothing but relief. The house was finally quiet, peaceful for the first time in years. I didn't have to deal with their constant criticism or my sister's endless games. I curled up on the couch with a bowl of popcorn and watched my favorite TV shows, enjoying the silence. But of course, in a family like mine, peace never lasts. It was 2 days of absolute bliss. No yelling, no snide comments, no exhausting power plays. I stayed in the house like it was my own personal retreat, playing my favorite music, dancing in the kitchen, and catching up on all the things I couldn't enjoy when they were around. Then the calls started. The first one came at 10 in the morning. I was in the middle of making pancakes when my phone buzzed on the counter. It was my sister. I rolled my eyes and silenced it. Whatever drama she had gotten herself into, I didn't want to hear it. The second call came 5 minutes later, then the third. By the time I finished eating, she had called 7 times. I stared down at my phone, debating whether to block her number, but part of me was curious. What could be so urgent that she couldn't just text? When the 8th call came in, I answered it, if only to tell her to leave me alone. "What?" I said, my voice dripping with irritation. "Finally!" she shrieked, her voice high-pitched and panicked. "I've been calling you for hours. Why didn't you answer?" "Because I don't care," I said flatly. "What do you want?" "We're in trouble," she said, her voice shaking. "I need your help." "Define trouble," I said, leaning back against the counter. She hesitated, which was never a good sign. My sister never hesitated unless she was about to lie. "We, got robbed?" I raised an eyebrow. "You got robbed on your perfect little family vacation?" "Yes," she snapped. "Some guy stole all of our money. Mom and Dad are freaking out, and we're stuck here with no money." I didn't know who else to call. Why not call Mike? I asked, referring to her husband. Her silence told me all I needed to know. Oh, I said, a grin spreading across my face. You didn't tell him, did you? What happened? Did the guy steal more than your money? Shut up, she hissed. This isn't funny. I laughed. Oh, it's hilarious. Let me guess, you went somewhere you shouldn't have, and now you're too embarrassed to admit it. Am I close? There was another pause, and then she said, Are you going to help us or not? I thought about it for a moment. On one hand, this was exactly the kind of mess she deserved. On the other hand, there was something deeply satisfying about watching her squirm. Let me think about it, I said. In the meantime, maybe you can ask one of those locals you like to hang out with for some help. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help. Oh, wait. She started yelling at me, but I hung up before I could hear the rest. For the next few hours, my phone buzzed with calls and texts, not just from her, but from my parents as well. They were all variations on the same message: we need your help, please send money. By the end of the day, I had 15 missed calls and a voicemail from my mother trying to guilt me by saying, I thought you were better than this, we're your family. I couldn't stop laughing. Family? I muttered to myself. Didn't you just tell me I have no place in this family? I texted a single sentence back to my sister. Sorry, but I'm just a roommate, remember? Then I turned my phone off. 2 days after the endless calls, I woke up to a single text from my sister. It wasn't the wall of emojis or threats I was expecting. It was simple: we're coming home. Thanks for nothing. I stared at it for a moment, then shrugged and went about my day. Whatever mess they'd gotten themselves into, it wasn't my problem. I didn't owe them anything, especially after what they had said to me. When they finally returned, I heard the commotion before I saw them. The slamming of car doors, my mom's loud voice yelling about luggage, and my dad muttering something under his breath. My sister, of course, made the biggest entrance. She stomped into the house, flushed and angry, her husband Mike trailing behind her, lugging suitcases. Mike gave me a little nod as he passed me in the hallway, as he always did. He was one of the few people in this family that I actually respected, maybe because he seemed to see through my sister's nonsense, or maybe because deep down he knew I was the sane one. Once they were all inside, my sister turned to me, her face a mask of rage. You're unbelievable, she snapped, jabbing a finger in my direction. We needed you and you just ignored us. I leaned back against the wall and crossed my arms. I'm sorry, I said, though my tone made it clear I wasn't. I didn't know roommates were supposed to cover each other's holidays. My dad glared at me. This isn't a joke, he said. We were stranded in a foreign country. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to beg for help? Humiliating? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You mean like being told you have no place in your own family? Because I wouldn't know anything about that. My mother let out an exasperated sigh. Why do you always have to be so difficult? We're your family, and families help each other. Oh, now we're family? I said, laughing. That's funny. Last week I was just a burden. Or did you forget? My sister, who had been pacing the room like a caged animal, finally exploded. You're such a child. Do you know how much stress you've caused us? Do you even care? I looked her dead in the eye. No, I don't. And you know why? Because you don't care about me. You never have. All you've ever done is tear me down, and now you expect me to bail you out? I'm sorry, but I'm done. The room fell silent. For once, my sister didn't have an answer. My mom looked like she wanted to say something, but for once, she couldn't find the words. Then Mike, who had been quietly unpacking by the door, spoke up. She's right. Everyone turned to stare at him. What? My sister snapped, her voice rising. She's right, he repeated, calmly but firmly. You treat her like garbage and then you wonder why she won't help you. Maybe if you respected her a little more, she'd feel differently. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. My sister looked like she'd been slapped. I can't believe you're taking her side, she hissed. I'm not taking sides, he said. I'm just saying you can't treat people like they're nothing and then expect them to come running when you're in trouble. For the first time in years, I felt like someone had finally seen me. But of course, the moment didn't last. My dad, always the peacekeeper, stepped in. Look, we've all been through a lot this week, he said. Let's just move on and try to put this behind us. Sure, I said, grabbing my bag from the couch. Let's put it behind us. In fact, let's put it all behind us because I'm done. Done? My mom asked, frowning. I'm moving out, I said. I'm packing my things tonight. My sister rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. You've said that before. This time I mean it," I said. "And I'm not coming back." I went upstairs before they could say anything else, leaving them in stunned silence. That night, I packed my bags and called my grandmother, who had always been the only sane person in our family. When I told her what had happened, she didn't seem surprised. "Come stay with me," she said. "You don't need them." And just like that, I was free. The next morning, I left the house without even saying goodbye. My grandmother's house was only an hour away and I couldn't wait to get there. She lived in this cozy little cottage on the edge of a small town, the kind of place where neighbors bring over pies for no reason and everyone knows your name. When I arrived, she greeted me with a warm hug and a plate of cookies, as she always did. "You're better off without them," she said, patting my hand. "Stay as long as you need to." I thought that was the end of it. I was free from the chaos of my family, and I could finally breathe. But of course, it wasn't that simple. 2 days after I moved in, I received a phone call from an unknown number. I ignored it at first, assuming it was just another scam. But when the same number called again, something told me to answer. "Hello?" I said carefully. "Is this your name?" a man's voice asked. It sounded official, almost too serious. "Yes. Who's asking?" "This is Detective Ramirez with the county police," he said. "We're investigating a report that involves your family." My stomach dropped. "What kind of report?" "Your sister has filed a complaint against you," he said, his tone neutral. "She claims you made threats against her safety before she went on vacation. I'd like to ask you some questions." For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. "Threats?" I said, laughing in disbelief. "Are you serious? She's lying." "I understand that this may come as a surprise," he said, his voice calm. "But we have to investigate every report. Can you come to the station tomorrow morning?" I hung up without answering, my mind racing. This was a new low even for my sister. Filing a report against me? Was she trying to have me arrested? I told my grandmother what had happened and she shook her head. "That girl has no shame," she said. "But don't worry, she doesn't have a leg to stand on. Let's go fix this." The next day, we went to the police station. Detective Ramirez was not what I expected. He was young, sharp-eyed, and surprisingly kind. After asking me a few questions, it became clear that my sister's story didn't hold up. "She said you threatened to hurt her," he explained, but when we asked for details, she couldn't give us any. Her story kept changing. "Of course she did," I said. "She's lying." He nodded. "That's what it looks like. Frankly, it looks like a personal vendetta. We're dropping the case, but I wanted to warn you, people like this don't give up easily. You might want to keep your distance." I thanked him and left, feeling a strange mixture of relief and anger. My sister had always been manipulative, but this was next level. When I got back to my grandmother's house, she handed me a letter. "This came for you while you were away," she said. It was from Mike, my sister's husband. I opened it, confused. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. "I need to talk to you. It's important. Call me." I stared at the note, my heart pounding. Why would Mike reach out to me? What could be so important? Against my better judgment, I called him. "Thank God," he said when he picked up. "I didn't know if you'd even read the letter." "What's going on, Mike?" I asked suspiciously. "It's your sister," he said, his voice tense. "She's hiding something. Something big. I don't know who else to turn to." "What do you mean, hiding something?" I asked. He hesitated. "I don't want to say too much over the phone. Can we meet in person?" I almost said no. After everything my sister had done, the last thing I wanted was to be dragged into more of her mess. But something in Mike's voice made me stop. He sounded desperate. "Fine," I said, "but this better be good." We agreed to meet the next day at a diner outside of town. When I walked in, Mike was already there, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen him. He motioned for me to sit down, and as soon as I did, he leaned forward and lowered his voice. "Your sister lied to everyone," he said. "About everything." "Tell me something I don't know," I said, rolling my eyes. "No, I mean everything," he said, his voice urgent. "The robbery, it wasn't random. She planned it. She gave the guy the money on purpose. She said it was an investment or something like that, but I found out she's been draining my accounts too. I think she's in serious debt, and she's trying to cover it up." I stared at him, my mind racing. This wasn't just her usual manipulation. This was criminal. "And the police report against you," he added. "That was her way of distracting everyone. She figured if you were in trouble, no one would look too closely at her. I leaned back in my chair, trying to take it all in. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I don't know what to do, he admitted. I can't trust her, and I can't go to your parents. They'll just take her side. You're the only one who sees her for what she really is. For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt for my sister in a long time. Pity, I'll think about it, I finally said. But if you want my help, you have to be willing to expose her. No more covering for her. He nodded. I'm ready. But something told me he wasn't. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. The next morning, Mike showed up unannounced at my grandmother's house. He looked pale, as if he hadn't slept all night. I told her I knew everything, he said as soon as I opened the door. She lost it, screamed at me, denied it, then admitted it, and now she's threatening to leave, taking everything with her. I sighed, already exhausted. What do you want me to do about it? She's dragging your parents into it too, he said. She's convinced them that I'm the problem. They're on their way over to talk to me, but I need someone to back me up. I hesitated. This wasn't my problem. I'd spent my whole life cleaning up after my sister, and I was finally free of her. But then I thought of Mike, who had always been decent to me, and how much my sister had already taken from him. Fine, I said. But this is the last time I'm going to get involved. When we arrived at Mike's house, my parents were already there, sitting stiffly on the couch while my sister paced the room, talking a mile a minute. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw me walk in. What's she doing here? She snapped. I invited her, Mike said firmly. She deserves to be here. My sister's face turned red, but before she could say anything, I stepped forward. Let's skip the theatrics, I said. Mike knows about the robbery. He knows about the money you took. And I know about the phony police report. My parents gasped. What is she talking about? My mother asked, looking at my sister. She's lying, my sister said, her voice shaking. She's just trying to turn you against me. Stop, Mike said sharply. I have proof. He pulled a stack of papers out of his bag. Bank statements, screenshots of texts, even a copy of the police report she'd filed against me. He laid them out on the coffee table, and the room fell silent as my parents read through them. This can't be true, my dad said, looking up at my sister. Tell me this isn't true. My sister burst into tears, but it wasn't the kind of tears that made you feel sorry for her. It was loud, messy, and exaggerated, like she was putting on a show. I only did it because I was desperate, she wailed. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You didn't mean to get mugged, I said, crossing my arms. You didn't mean to steal from your husband or lie to the police? Shut up, she screamed, turning to face me. This is all your fault. If you had just left like I told you, none of this would have happened. I laughed, genuinely amused. Wow, you're actually blaming me for your crimes? Classic. My father stood up, his face pale. We have to go, he said to my mom, grabbing her arm. What about her? My mom whispered, nodding to my sister. She's not our problem anymore, he said, his voice cold. My sister's jaw dropped. What? You're just going to leave me? You did this to yourself, he said. I can't help you anymore. For the first time in my life, I watched my parents walk away from her. They left the house without another word, and my sister stood there, stunned. When she finally turned to me, her face was filled with anger. Are you happy now? She hissed. Ecstatic, I said. And just so you know, if you ever pull something like this again, I won't just walk away. I'll make sure you pay for it. She stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Mike breathed a long sigh of relief. Thank you, he said. I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out, I said. You're stronger than you know. Over the next few weeks, things started to fall into place. My sister moved out of Mike's house, and he filed for divorce. My parents tried to pretend that none of this had ever happened, but I stopped talking to them. I stayed with my grandmother for a while, saving money until I could get my own place. And my sister? Last I heard, she was couch surfing with some friends, still trying to talk her way out of the mess she'd made. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free from the lies, the manipulation, and the constant chaos. And I knew in my heart that I'd never go back. A year later, I was sitting in my new apartment, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise, when my phone buzzed with a message from Mike. Hey, just wanted to say thanks again for everything. I hope you're doing well. I smiled and tapped out a quick reply. Doing great. Hope you are too. For the first time in my life, I wasn't worried about what my sister or my parents were doing. I wasn't looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next disaster to happen. I was finally living my life on my own terms.